my garage for you.
Make the motor for the garage for you.
Yeah.
Badass.
Tell me what you want. Tell me what you need.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to another installment of the Surviving COVID-Free webinar series. I can see that a number of people have started joining. That's beyond my ability. We would stop talking, Siri. We would start in a bit. Let's just see how many more people will join in the next, say, 1 minute, and then we'll kick this off. We already have our guest for today here. His name is Mr. Tolu Adeleke, and he is a partner with PwC. I know a number of people want to work with PwC, yeah. Now imagine someone who's a partner, right? And we're lucky to have him here today. So I'll just quickly run through his profile, and please, as I do that, don't be intimidated. If you start feeling intimidated, just begin to tell yourself to calm down, because there are some profiles that when you see them, you're like, what have I been doing in my life, right? But this man's profile is very, 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 very. I wouldn't use the word intimidating. I think maybe the word encouraging is perfect, right? So I'll start by reading his profile. If you want to share the link to this webinar, people just tell whoever it is that you're inviting for the webinar to go to www.ventoven.com, and then they can watch the webinar live. And we would also try to share some snippets of the webinar on our social media pages. So for those who miss it, they'll be able to catch bits and pieces of it here and there. All right. You can also find the link to the webinar on our social media platforms and in our bio on our social media pages. All right. So let's jump straight into it. I'll just quickly run through Tolu's profile. Like I said, don't be intimidated, just be encouraged as I read his profile. He's a partner in PwC Nigeria, which is Nigeria's, in PwC, Nigeria's financial service and industry practice, who has led financial reporting engagements and financial statement reviews for various clients in both private and public sector in Nigeria and beyond. He has performed and also overseen teams that perform substantive and controls testing, client branch visits, internal control reviews, and risk management reviews for about 18 years. So first of all, it's not easy for you to work in the same place for 18 years. Now, it's another thing for you to work in the same place for 18 years and actually grow in that system. And I think that's very commendable. All right, so I'll continue. He has consistently been involved in engagements that make significant impact in various Nigerian in various industries, As such, he has been the engagement manager and partner on very important entities in the Nigerian economy, such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, Sovereign Wealth Fund, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, National Pension Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, and other private sector entities. He has been involved in reviews in Ghana, Rwanda, South Africa, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That one is money. Bros, we'll talk about that one later. All right. All right. Tolu has been a speaker at various strategy retreats and sessions on the economy and corporate governance, and has been a moderator in different sessions, including key government and private sector players in the economy. He has facilitated sessions in Nigeria, Dubai, and London. Tolu has been a part of different government committees on policy directions and also worked with Nigerian Action Committee of the African Continental Free Trade Area, that's AFCFTA. The committee set up in Nigeria that was responsible for the implementation of the AFCTA in Nigeria. So sorry about that. Tolu has attended the World Pension Summit, at the please, how do you pronounce this? Is it Hague? Oh, okay. At the Hague twice, where contemporary issues in global pension administration and management are discussed. Tolu is dynamic business professional with extensive senior level experience of managing high value business solutions and engagements for clients. Please hold on. I think I'm having a bit of a technical issue here. All right, I think I was having a bit of a technical issue there. Okay. All right, I think my system is back on. Please, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Very loud and clear.
All right, that's good. Thank you. I think there was a bit of a technical issue there. Okay, so I was saying that as I was reading, I'll start this paragraph again. It says, Tolu is a dynamic business professional with extensive senior level experience of managing high value business solutions engagements for clients within this financial service industry and the public sector, drawing on global expertise and excellence. He has a demonstrated track record of success in leadership roles, of course, partner PwC, me, right? Senior leadership roles, managing large-scale engagement and internal programs, including designing and implementing innovative new business models, latest as partner in the assurance practice of PricewaterhouseCoopers Nigeria, previously as an associate director, senior manager, and senior associate at PricewaterhouseCoopers in Nigeria. Is result-driven, resourceful, and an efficient audit, financial control, and business solution professional with extensive years of experience spanning banking, finance, risk management, controls, audit, financial control, and management, who is a charismatic business leader with vision, drive, and the proven ability to stimulate positive change and to successfully deliver planned outcomes of real quality and value. There are a list of awards I can't even begin to, I don't think we have enough time. There's one that says most admirable manager, most coach of the year, most amiable manager. There are some awards that are repeated like 3-4 times year on year. So, like I said, don't be intimidated, just be encouraged by his profile. All right, So that Mr. Tolu Adeleke is a top professional in the financial space, and if you were to pay him, right? If you were to pay him to have this session, it probably will cost you a whole lot, right? So we're very fortunate to have him here today. So I'm just going to allow him jump right in. Right. So I'm just going to allow him jump right in and then take us on this journey. Today, we want to look at the impact of the Financial Act, of the Finance Act 2020 on startups and SMEs. First of all, COVID has come and it has affected a lot of businesses, and then policies as well have their own way of affecting businesses, both negatively and positively. And this is a policy that I think we all need to be aware of and look at. So I'll hand over to Mr. Tolu Adeleke now to take us. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Lolade. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to be here, and I trust well, keeping well, and staying safe. So, I mean, my profile had just been read out, so I think the introduction has been done. So I'll just go straight to the topic. Yes, COVID had significantly impacted on the livelihoods and businesses of virtually everybody, and the impact cannot be overemphasized. But let me confirm first. Am I very audible? Lolade, can you hear me very well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. But do you have another device on that is playing?
Okay, it's echoing, right? Okay.
Yes. So maybe you want to reduce the volume of that.
How is it now?
Yeah.
Or can you still hear? Okay. I just need to be sure.
There's still a bit of echo.
Let me sign up. So I guess it should be fine now.
Yes,
okay.
It is.
That's good. So I think I'll just go straight into it. I understand I have 45 more minutes to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I've put some things together to see what sort of impact we have. So what I've put together is the impact of the Finance Act 2020 on MSMEs, startups, and digital, what I call the digital economy, because we started seeing the impact of those things in Nigeria, where we have a lot of foreign organizations now having businesses in Nigeria, and a lot of them are linked to our various startups, especially the tech hubs and the like. So I just thought I should bring some things home here to see some of those impacts that government policies, the way government policies are shaping some of the businesses we do right now in Nigeria and beyond. So I'll just go straight to sharing my screen so that we can go through it together. Let me just do this now. Okay. Can you see my screen? Lolade, if you can, then I would assume that every other person will be able to see the screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, that's fine. So I think we're just going to go straight into it. Impact of Finance Act 2020 on MSME startups and digital economy, understanding the major changes in the act and impact it has in building a profitable business. I think now in Nigeria, this is like the second act that has been passed. We started in 2019. Before that, I think the last time we had something similar to Finance Act was about 10 years ago. But ever since we did the one of 2019, we had the one of 2020, and it has significantly impacted on businesses and largely SMEs. But we're going to see how this has affected or impacted on the SME. Now, I mean, my profile has been read earlier, so I mean, an introduction has been done. I'll just go straight to the content, what we have for the session today. So what I've done is to break it down. Sorry, Lord, I think it stopped. Can you see it?
No, you went off.
Okay. Let me try.
You share it again.
Okay, let me try and share it again. Just a minute. I will share it right away. Or do you mind sharing the version? Okay, you have?
All right. Is it coming up?
Yeah, it's coming up. We're just taking a bit of time. It's coming up. Yes, let me use this. Yeah, it's coming up.
This is typical of technology.
Of technology, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let me. Yes. Is it up now?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you're back now.
So the first thing I have, I mean, I've actually split this presentation into three major sections: introduction and general overview of the Finance Act and why we're doing this. Then the impact on SME, startups, and digital economy. Then closing remarks and Q&A, and then I'll share some. Incidentally, there's an SME clinic that we're also hosting in PwC next week, and I'll just use this opportunity to share that invitation as well, and what we're doing with respect to our response in PwC to COVID, since this is part of a series responding to COVID. So, introduction and general overview. I mean, we've talked about the impact COVID has had on the various businesses and livelihoods in Nigeria. And strangely, if you look at it, we all know, we're all aware that economy actually contracted in 2020, largely in Q2 2020, because that was when we started feeling the impact of COVID compared to a year ago where we never had COVID. And if you see the statistics that I have on the screen, you see the various level of contraction, mining, manufacturing, real estate, construction, trade by 16.6%. However, ICT actually grew by 16.5%. Financial institutions as well grew by about 28.4%. And the agri sector was very, very resilient. And a lot of us were aware because we switched from the old way of doing things to what we call the new normal. Everybody started embracing technology. We all started working from home, and that had significant impact on that sector. So the GDP growth in Q2 of 2020 actually continued in Q3 of 2020 unabated until the end of the year. So, I mean, a lot of indicators did not move in the right direction. Inflation rose, despite the fact that we had growth in some major areas of ICT and financial institution. Even if we're talking about our debt, it increased significantly to about 32.3 trillion in 2021. It has actually grown to about 33 trillion or thereabout. So all these things were actually the impact of COVID because international trade was disrupted. A lot of things were affected, entertainment industry, logistics and all that. Global logistic plans were all disrupted. But the government in Nigeria actually reacted. There were lots of policy interventions, both monetary and fiscal, that were introduced by the government, pushing the severity and impact of COVID. And a few of them included the Economic Sustainability Plan, Appropriation Act of 2021 that actually considered that. And a very important one was the Finance Act 2020 that was expected to facilitate economic recovery. And that's the one we want to look at in detail today. That was essentially passed to ensure economic recovery and also lead to inclusive growth. I think I'll just quickly give some highlights of the act before we go into the key details and how it impacted on SMEs, startups, and then what I call the digital economy. When was the act passed into law? It was passed and signed on the 31st of December 2020. It became effective on the 1st of January 2021. And it was essentially meant to complement the budget of 2021 that was a budget of economic recovery and resilience. But what are the key objectives of the Finance Act? I think the key objectives was then to adopt an appropriate counter-cyclical fiscal policies to respond to the economic and revenue challenges. These were done, in response to the COVID pandemic we had, because we needed to jumpstart the economy after a series of lockdown, not only in Nigeria, but globally. Also, it was meant to reform some fiscal policy and prioritize job creation, economic growth, social economic development, and domestic revenue mobilization. So we will see the impact of that in our budget funding and revenue mobilization. It was supposed to also provide fiscal relief for taxpayers. We're going to be talking about that in details later. It was also supposed to provide some funding mechanism for the federal government in the way we reacted to the pandemic in Nigeria, and also simulate if we have similar crises in the future, we're going to deal with it. Then it was also to ensure coordination between fiscal, monetary, and trade policy, because before now, we've seen a lot of divergent views from fiscal and the monetary side. So the Finance Act was meant to serve as a coordinating tool for this. And also, lastly, to ensure we have more responsiveness with respect to our fiscal responsibility and also public procurement reform. So these were some of the objectives that the Finance Act 2020 was meant to achieve. So let's now look at some of the impacts we had from this Finance Act. Starting with MSMEs, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, according to the World Bank statistics, account for about 90% of businesses globally and 50% of employment worldwide. This is very true because you have a lot of global economies depending on this sector, and that's why we have this huge statistics. And even in Nigeria, I think our GDP, according to the NBS, as at December 2020, was about 43 trillion, 43.3 trillion. That's a real GDP. Then you have the nominal, about 19 trillion. And MSMEs actually contributed about 50% of GDP in 2020 after the rebuilding of the economy. So there's a lot of potential for government to generate revenue from SMEs. That is true. However, we think that a more sustainable strategy is to ensure that, you remove some of this body of tax obligation, multiplicity of taxes from small and medium enterprise, small and medium-sized enterprises, and ensure that you provide incentives to them to grow so as to ensure that they scale up their operations, because it's a chicken and egg situation. When you allow them to grow and they grow extensively, then governments will make a lot of revenue from them rather than coming up with policies that would ensure that they are not even able to scale up their operation. So the Act actually introduces a lot of changes to tax laws that specifically impact on MSMEs and by implication the larger economy, and that's what we want to be talking about, we want to be looking at here. Now, we talked about it that a lot of sectors were actually impacted negatively by COVID, but one sector that was impacted positively by COVID was the ICT sector, because a lot of organizations actually moved online. In my own organization, for example, we switched because we were actually ready. You had people that were working remotely, you had your laptops, you had your meetings, you were having meetings on Hangout, Google Hangout, Microsoft Team, Microsoft Teammate, and all, Microsoft Teams and all that. So a lot of businesses, clients as well, actually switched online, and that meant a lot of positive impacts for startups, tech companies, and MSMEs. So it showed that while COVID ravaged a lot of sectors in the economy, technology was one of the few exceptions, just like I had mentioned before. So there were some changes in the Act that actually dealt with that. And that is what we're just going to be talking about here. So there were a lot of changes that would now impact on what we call the non-resident persons that have business dealings in Nigeria, including those that carry out digital, technical, and other related activities remotely without having physical presence in Nigeria. That's one of the new concepts, because before now, we just think if you don't have presence in Nigeria, you do not need to be impacted by Nigerian tax system. But right now, there are a lot of changes. So the key ones are the ones that I've highlighted here. Now, there are requirements for documentation of non-residents, because now they have to start filing what is called company income tax. They have to file their CITs. Now they have to register for VAT, value-added taxes. Now there is broader definition for organizations that do have what we call the significant economic presence, SEP, that are now for non-resident individuals and unincorporated entities that do have presence in Nigeria. And now the Act also empowers the Federal Inland Revenue Service to adopt technology in gathering information, administration, and collection of taxes on some transactions that before now was not happening. So these are some of the few changes, and I think I'll elaborate that later in subsequent slides. Okay.
I was going to ask if we could ask questions here, or do we wait till the end?
No problem. I mean, I think maybe we can go through the presentation, then we can then take questions.
Then we'll ask the questions. All right. So please, if you're watching and you have questions, just type your question in the ask a question box, and I'll relay it to Tolu at the end.
Okay. All right. So
I think you can continue.
Okay, that's fine. So I think when you look at some of these changes that you have there, you can see that one, there is what we call the non-resident companies that are now taxable in Nigeria. I think I talked about SEP, that's companies with significant economic presence. Now they're required to file their company's income tax returns. That wasn't happening before, and this is going to affect largely a lot of our tech firms. Now, in filing your returns, you are also expected to submit the financial statement, audited financial statement of your global operations, as well as financial statements of your Nigerian operations. Now, the financial statement of your Nigerian operations has to be certified by an independent accountant in Nigeria. Then the non-resident companies are also required to submit tax computations based on profits attributable to Nigerian operations. These are some of the requirements of the New Finance Act 2020. However, when we're talking about payment of taxes, it does not affect companies that earn passive income. What do we call passive income? Those are income that you earn by not actively operating in Nigeria. Maybe you invested in Nigeria and you're just earning, collecting dividends. So that's one will not be liable to tax. Once you have just paid your withholding tax, that would have been deducted at source. So again, when you have companies that are not residents in Nigeria, but they supply goods and services to customers in Nigeria, the New Finance Act makes it mandatory for them not only to register and pay VAT, but now to obtain what is called TIN, Taxpayers Identification Number, whether or not you have a physical presence in Nigeria. So it is no longer physical presence in Nigeria, because that's what we used to have before. Right now, it is significant economic presence in Nigeria. So you can have economic presence without you having physical presence. So those are some of the things we need to understand, especially for companies that are doing businesses with these foreign partners, because the onus and responsibility will be on you doing businesses with them to ensure that appropriate things are done in line with the Finance Act. So it defines exactly what taxable supply of goods and services mean. Once those things are consumed in Nigeria by people here, then it means that you are captured under this new act. Okay, once you have your customers in Nigeria, so the VAT team has to be included on the invoices of those goods and services that you're rendering in Nigeria. Okay, so now there's also an expansion of old Personal Income Tax Act. That's the law that regulates the payment of taxes by individuals, while the ones that regulate the payment of taxes by companies is called Company Income Tax Act. So now this has also been expanded to include professional and consultancy services that are done remotely by non-residents. I mean, everything still revolves around that concept of significant economic presence. However, the law empowers the Minister of Finance to define what constitutes a significant economic presence in this regard. So that's exactly what the law says. So the Minister of Finance from time to time will review and define what constitutes SEP for the purpose of this act. Okay, so unlike CITA, that's the Company Income Tax Act, and the Personal Income Tax Act, they do not have express provisions to grant supremacy to double tax agreement. This means that foreign individuals are other unincorporated entities that are residents in treaty countries may be subjected to SAP rules on that. What this is saying is that there are some countries that Nigeria do have taxation agreements with. We're now saying that under this significant economic presence rule, those companies might then be liable to pay taxes. Now, I think I also mentioned the fact that the Federal Inland Revenue Service is now empowered by the law to deploy platforms, use of tools, application to collect information on activities that might lead to generation of taxes. And FIRS may deploy technology to automate tax assessment and information gathering process, provided it gives 30 days notice. So they can actually deploy from their office. And right now, there's this talk around people that actually sell things using POS. I don't know whether you are aware of that, but it's something that is now coming to fore that once you make your sales through POS, there can be a transmission of that data or information to a central server that will just aggregate all of that and determine what the revenue is and what the likely tax should be. Okay. Now let's just talk briefly about minimum tax that can be paid by companies. In 2019, when the first Finance Act, recent Finance Act was passed, it put minimum tax at 0.5% of the gross turnover of that company. Don't forget that companies that do have less than 25 million in turnover are exempted. They're not paying tax any longer in Nigeria. But if you then have turnover between 25 million and 100 million, you're defined to come into this bucket, and then your minimum tax now will be 0.25% as against 0.5% that it was in 2019. So this is another positive thing that the New Finance Act has brought in 2020. However, the companies that do have significant economic presence in Nigeria, non-resident companies, may then have to comply with minimum tax provisions in Nigeria. But I also need to mention this at this point that, for a company that just started operation, now in Nigeria, you are exempted for the first 4 calendar years of paying taxes, especially companies in the digital space. So your first 4 years, even if you don't make that revenue, you would not pay minimum tax. So what this means is that you might be shielded from tax for about 5 years after the commencement of this act as a company operating in this space. Also, I think one good thing that has been brought about by the act is filing of annual returns. A lot of companies have complained about this before, that it's always cumbersome, to get a financial statement audited for tax purposes. So the new act, coupled with the new changes in the Companies and Allied Matters Act, because we had another act that was also passed into law in 2020, that has now removed that requirement to submit audited accounts when you are filing your tax returns for small companies. So now you can submit what's called a simplified form of accounts, other than audited accounts, as part of the annual tax returns by SMEs. So SMEs are enjoying these benefits of not getting audited accounts for their tax purposes. Just to bring this as well to fore here, you can see the guy smiling there, and what this is saying is that anyone that earns 30,000 naira per month, which is the current minimum wage, because the act says any person that earns a minimum wage now in Nigeria is exempted from paying taxes. So it means that companies that are SMEs, before now, even right up until this moment, the responsibility of tax deduction and collection and remittance rests with the companies. When you employ people, you, that organization,
That's the pay.
Yeah, payee, you're meant to deduct it. So right now, if you have people that are earning 30,000 naira and below, they are not meant to pay taxes any longer according to the new finance. So if the minimum wage is increased, apparently this will also increase to capture those people in that band. Okay, these are other considerations. I think I'll just quickly run to it because of our time, so that I can be able to cover other things. Now, another thing that has come in the new Finance Act is land and buildings have now been excluded from taxable items. So what that means is that before now, we're paying VAT on rent, whether it's commercial or residential rent. So if you're paying rent for your offices and all that, Now you're not meant to be paying that any longer. So that's one of the benefits of the new Finance Act. Even flight tickets are meant to be affected because VAT had been removed from flight tickets. So we should start seeing those changes. For some of us that look at our flight tickets, when you break it down, you realize that the ticket, there's a lot of tax components in our flight ticket. So when you look at it now, that VAT element has been taken out of our flight ticket. So we should start seeing those positive benefits. I mean, one thing is to have these policies, another thing is to have them being complied with. So there are a lot of compliance issues that organizations and companies in Nigeria will have to do. Then also, companies are required to maintain their books for 6 years here in English language because the FIRS can actually call for the books of SMEs that they want to review it at any time. Before now, we never used to have the use of emails, even having remote meetings. Those are the new changes that now been brought into the law, that we can use emails now to communicate with the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Because before now, it was not known to the law, But after COVID, a lot of things started happening that got used to, and this is one of them. Everybody moved ICT, including our regulators. Now, for IT companies now that actually have a lot of expenditure in development and acquisition of software, before now those things were not exempted for tax purposes, but right now they're included in what we use to compute capital allowance. So this is another benefit for startups and tech companies that do a lot of software acquisition or development. Then CGT, capital gains tax, for people that lose their offers and they are paid compensation. Before now they pay, but now anything below 10 million is exempted. Anything above 10 million is now subjected to CGT at a rate of 10%. I think the last two, I just introduced this for assessment and also levies for importation of motor vehicles. You have different rates for that, which is also a reduced rate compared to what we had before now. So what I think I would just say in terms of impact is that the Finance Act is building on what happened in 2019, just like I mentioned to you, that we had the Finance Act 2019, then we have Finance Act 2020. The greatest impact here in the digital space is for those that are having digital activities in Nigeria that maybe are not residents in Nigeria, but having a lot of significant activity. Okay, now they are meant to file financial statements, register for VAT if you make supplies that we've talked about. Again, this is additional compliance burden for them, but it's something they need to be aware of so that they do not run foul of the law. FIRS has also been mandated to deploy technology gathering information, which I think I talked about before now. So this ensures that they have that visibility and they're bringing a lot of people to the tax net. Now, in view of the recent changes, I mentioned earlier on that even our companies income law, Companies and Allied Matters Act, which is the ultimate regulatory framework for companies in Nigeria, has exempted company as well from operation of audited accounts, small companies. Then this has also been reinforced by the Finance Act, which has now adopted the use of alternative forms of account, which is not complex because then it was very cumbersome for companies that are small to get auditors to prepare their accounts and file, but now you can use what's called a simplified form of reporting for your tax filing. So looking at the various incentives available from this new Finance Act, it's expected, just like I stated, there are many informal businesses and unincorporated entities will formalize their business going forward, further strengthening by CAMA, that now allows one single shareholder to own a company. Before now, there must be a minimum of 2 people to own the company. So things are now just being simplified. And I think it would be nice for us to have visibility about this thing so that we can know how it affects our company. Now there are a lot of exemptions for even holding meetings. Before now, virtual meetings was not known to the law. It was based on the new CAMA Act that now put a legal seal or legal means of allowing companies to hold virtual meetings. Because right now, it's just the new normal way of working. Digital upskilling, you need to just be IT savvy for you to ensure that your normal operations that were being run manually before it's now able to function effectively. So what are the takeaways here? I think what I'll say are the takeaways here. In order for us to develop activities of SMEs and promote their competitiveness in Nigeria and for them to be able to compete, especially with the AFCFTA that has been signed that became effective in 2021. There is a need for more coordinated approach in three broad areas: strategic positioning for opportunities. There's going to be a lot of opportunities around that. Collaboration, both public and private, and digital strategy for every company operating in that space across all the spectra of the MSME value chain. It's very important. Governments will grant incentives, but we're saying beyond that, there should be deliberate and sustained efforts to address the various challenges and impediments that's facing SME in Nigeria. A lot of issues. There are lots of issues. Yes, it would not be eradicated in a day, but when you start having things like this legislation coming in to address or mitigate some of the key issues we have, then there's light at the end of the tunnel. Things like multiplicity of taxes, complex regulations, access to credit and capacity building. We know that there is hope and need for SMEs in Nigeria. However, there's still some issues that need to be clarified. Absence of clear guidelines on attribution of profits. How do you move profits out of Nigeria? Then for those people with significant economic presence, there are some uncertainties that are still created. Minister of Finance still needs to define what SCPs are. So those ones too they're very key for us to address it. So we expect that there will still be a significant economic presence order that will be issued by the Minister of Finance. Don't forget, I mentioned it earlier, that the Minister of Finance is expected to define what a significant economic presence is as against the old physical presence. So that needs to be defined to address some of these practical challenges with the existing significant economic presence provision introduced via the Finance Act of 2019 and the current order. So I'm sure if we're able to address some of these things with these benefits, SMEs, startups will tap into these various opportunities that the Finance Act has brought, and then there would be obvious increased activities of the SMEs in the Nigerian economy, and they would further boost our GDP by, more proportion. So I think those are the things I just thought I should talk about, and I think we have about 15 minutes to take questions where I would respond to any questions and comments. But just shortly before I allow questions to be taken, this is something we're also trying to do. We have what is called SME Masterclass, which is almost the same topic, and we're hosting this next week. So I'll probably be sharing this with you in case you might want to share it.
Yeah, so we can share.
I
think you can just leave it on the screen there.
Yes, so we're having
so that people can take the information
next week, which is also virtual. Before now, we used to have all these things, physical meetings. So that can show you how the world has changed. And Finance Act actually responded to some of those changes to provide legal backing to some of those new things that were started doing. And also just to share that this is what we are doing in PwC in terms of responding to COVID. And I'm sure there will be some SMEs businesses here. And what we have done is we have created a knowledge hub. In fact, we set aside, I think, about 500 million worth of cash and time, staff and partner time, for us to develop this knowledge hub in response to COVID, where we have a lot of knowledge resources, and we're also working with a lot of SMEs to ensure that we build capacity, we upskill them digitally, we review their business strategy and ensure that they can work around COVID. So you can just check out the address shown there, which will have our COVID-19 content up. You're definitely going to see a lot of materials in there. And then you can also reach out if you need any form of assistance, if you're an SME, because it's something we do and it's something that we continue to do as a response, as part of our corporate social responsibility in PwC. And also, there's another mobile app that we have on taxes. especially for SMEs, something that can be downloaded on Google Play Store, Apple App Store, where it will tell you or show you all the various legislation that affects your business in different categories, whether you're in banking or capital market, SME, construction, hotel, all sort of business organizations and different sectors and segments of the economy. So I think that's my presentation for today. Thank you very much for having me once again, and I'll be very happy to take comments, questions, or clarifications as required. Thank you.
All right. Can you just leave the flyer? Yeah, so that people can get all of the information. All right. Thank you very, very much. That was very insightful. The first comment I have is, I think, thinking about it, I think government should actually be the one to be doing things like this, because what you've done is you've taken the complex Finance 2020 Act and you've broken it down into something that is simple enough for the layman to understand. And I really wish that the government could do this, for most of the acts that we have out there, because a lot of people do not know these things, and because of that, we're not taking advantage. We're not taking advantage of them. Yeah, I think we have a few questions, so I'll just read out the questions to you, and you can answer them. The first question is from Samuel. It says, does the Act have compliance jurisdiction down to state and local government level?
Okay. Do I take it one by one?
Yeah, you can take it, and I'll read the next one to you.
Okay. Yeah, when it comes to that, you definitely have to look at what the things that are in the exclusive list, in the concurrent list, and in the residual list. And I'll give you an example. When it comes to payee, for example, payee, it's in the act there, but payee is something that is paid to the states. It's not paid to the federal government. It's not something that a Federal Inland Revenue Service administer. For example, if I work in Lagos, I pay payee to Lagos State, okay? And it actually happened to me. I was working in Lagos at some point. I was paying my tax in Lagos State. But when I moved to Abuja, then I was paying to the Federal Inland Revenue Service before the creation of the Abuja Internal Revenue Service, which I now pay to. So you have this sort of laws set up there at the center, and some of them can actually have impact. They can have subnational jurisdiction. So for this, it will definitely, if there's something on minimum wage or on taxes, paying tax, it can then impact on them. Another example, is pension, where you have a situation where you are meant to deduct 10%, contribute 10% and deduct 8% of basic transport and housing allowance of your employees. There was a federal law, was also expected to be complied with the staff that work in those various states. So you do have situations like that most times, except it's a situation that is not a law that can be done by the federal government.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Thank you. Samuel, I hope your question has been answered. The second question is from Matthew. It says, how does the Act affect startups that do cross-border intellectual trading? For example, a Nigerian resident startup hosted in Nigeria, but their market is abroad.
I mean, when it comes to this, I think it looks more of the opposite of this, because if you do a business here and your customers are abroad, it means your global operation is here in Nigeria. So definitely, you're carrying out business from Nigeria. It does not. I don't think he specifically addresses that, but that has always been addressed before now, because it's like you're in Nigeria, but you're selling outside Nigeria. So your operation is seen to be here because you're based there. And if you look at the concept of that, talks more about the concept of your fiscal presence. It's like normal company that is exporting. So that would be looked at from an export point of view. And this AFCFTA would have opened a lot of opportunities for those kind of businesses. So it's not something that was specifically addressed by the Act, but it did then address the opposite of it, where you have businesses outside Nigeria now coming in to have operations in Nigeria. Before now, they were not considered, but now they are now considered. So in that kind of situation where you have a business in Nigeria that is exporting this outside Nigeria, it would be tracked for the purpose of payment of tax in Nigeria. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I have a question. You know, everybody's asking the one that pertains to them. This is the one that touches me personally. So you mentioned something about you know, flights and the VAT on flights and how the VAT on flights has been
Yes.
reduced. Question is, does this affect international flights? So for international carriers that come to pick passengers from Nigeria and bill passengers in Nigeria?
Yeah, because I mean, all flights, it does not say local flight. I mean, there is no specific mention of local. And if you do break down your international flight tickets, you would realize
Mm-hmm.
that a significant portion of them is taxes as well. And those taxes are paid in Nigeria, especially those flights originate from Nigeria. You know, not when you buy tickets from UK. If you're in London and you buy tickets in London, obviously that will not be impacted, even though the flight is flying to Nigeria. But when you have tickets bought in Nigeria for flights that originate in Nigeria, whether local or international flight, as long as they're paying VAT before now, they would be affected. So the portion that is taken out is the VAT portion, but of course there's still some other fees, FAA, AN fees, ground charges, and all that. Those ones are not affected. But VAT, which was 7.5, it was 5% at some point before it was increased to 7.5% last year. And the impact of 7.5% can actually be significant. So that 7.5% has been completely exempted, whether it's local or international. Yes.
Oh, wow. That's great. This next question, it might not directly relate to the act, but I think it somehow does. But I would just like you to just talk a bit about the importance of being ready. You mentioned that when COVID hit and then we had to go on lockdown, you guys were able to transit from physical operations to virtual operations because you were ready. So what's the importance of being ready for things like that? And how can SMEs begin to prepare themselves for such in the future? Because
Thank you
you
very
might
much
want to
for that.
guess that because it's PwC, you have all of that, but can a small business who is just starting also be prepared for things like that?
I think I quite agree with you that even what we saw, I mean, during COVID, I mean, there were two sides actually to that coin of COVID. Yes, there was a lot of negative impacts on businesses and livelihoods, but COVID also taught
Mhm.
us a lot of things that we thought were not possible to be done. We started seeing that these things were possible. Big businesses were not prepared, not to even talk about small businesses. But the beauty of it is, right now, it has actually shaped the way we think, including SMEs. So if you're going to a business now, one of the most fundamental things you need to start thinking of is digital strategy. What's your digital strategy like? What's your digital upskilling like? I'm not sure anyone will go into a business right now and will think that, oh, I would have to serve all my customers manually, that they have to come physically to pick up goods. Even goods that we used to pick up before, that we all used to go to pick up at ShopRite and all that. There are a lot of ways, Domino's and Co. When I mean, buy pizzas for my kids. Now everything is digital. So if you're going to a business now, the number one thing you need to think about is, what is my digital strategy? How do
Mm.
I how do I survive? Now it's not nice to have any longer. Before now, it used to be nice to have things that, okay, we're having team meetings. We can, we have to all be together. We have to fly people in to have board meetings. But right now, I mean, you can't even have an organization where you don't make provisions for meeting virtually. You can have some of your staff, and it has increased flexibility, and that's one good thing that has done. Flexibility in the workplace, even though that has come at a cost. Organizations need to have what is called a charter, for virtual working, for digital working. Because working from home doesn't mean that you can work anytime. It doesn't mean you can work from 5 a.m. to 12 midnight. There has to be boundaries as well. So you need to come up with all those kind of things. I'm going to a business. I need to ensure that my staff that I'm bringing on board, they need to be digitally upskilled. They need to be digitally fit. There has to be digital acceleration. People need to carry on business from a digital mindset and not manual. You need to create that flexibility. You can work from anywhere. You can connect with the customers in various platforms. So you need to start thinking of that. Even if you're an MSME, you have a lot of business guys now that do sell things on Instagram, on Twitter, and all that. Before now, 5-7 years ago, we never used to have that. I mean, the bulk of your customers were people that would come in, working, and buy things. I mean, if I look back in the last 2-3 years, even before COVID, most of the purchases of personal items that I bought them online. I mean, I'd seen them online. We just maybe send a message and all that. We connect without even seeing the person. I pay the person send the goods, I pick it up. So now SMEs are getting more and more into the game. And if you are open to start a business without having those sort of thoughts, you are not even going to survive. You're not even going to be able to start. Because right now, to start a business, you need to come from an IT angle. Ensure that you have a combination of customers, whether it's manual, whether it's IT. And you also simulate in case we have this sort of things again, how do you survive? If you have another lockdown, if you have another pandemic. So you need to start having sensitivity analysis, start building in shocks. Okay, how do I survive if there is a problem? What's my business continuity plan? So all those things that we used to think, oh, they are fanciful, ideas that are being used by big and large corporations. When this thing happens, even a lot of them fail. So now it has taught us that even small companies can come up with these ideas, can scale it down to their size, and they can execute it. Once you plan appropriately for it and you execute your digital strategy effectively, then the sky is really and now you have legislation that tends to be supporting the SMEs to do better, to have access to money. That's why a lot of Nigerian startups are doing very well. I mean, you've seen them in education, and you can see even the rise of SMEs during lockdown, the likes of lessons and the rest. So now they're becoming more and more popular. People are attending lessons, attending classes online. People are doing their banking on their phone. And these are things that never used to happen 5-6-7 years ago. So SMEs are coming more and more into the game. I think, in summary, what I would just say is before starting, by the time you start conceiving your idea, you need to ensure that your digital strategy is a cardinal point and focus of your business idea and generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. All right, we've officially come to the end of today's webinar. I don't think anybody else has a question. Okay, no more questions. Would like to thank you, Tolu. Thank you very much for making our time to come enlighten us on this. I think we're going to have you again at sometime in the course of the year. I think I'm getting this vibe that there's much more we need to squeeze out of you that people need to hear. Right? So thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who is joining us for this webinar. We meet again next month with another topic. And I think next month's topic is centered around innovation for startups and SMEs. So let's have a wonderful